Bezrat Hashem, we are going to Chazar from chapter 1 to chapter 9. Okay, we've got an hour, so we'll try with Chazara. Taking notes would be a good idea if you're able to, because we're going to say a lot of. We're just going to try and we've discussed we've what's the word we've fleshed
We're getting
out
some feedback. Yonatan, I think you have to go on mute. We're getting some feedback.
Okay, so we've discussed, ironed out, explained, described, detailed, etc., defined a lot over the past few months. So I'm not going to be describing stuff properly. I will, but I'm being so that this is a Chazara, yeah, Bishop Bakitza. This is a Chazara. Okay, so the first thing we need to know is that reality divides into two sections. Everything divides into two. Yeah, we have the creator and we have creation. Okay, in truth, there's only creator, but let's with concession to our place, because we won't get very far if we just say that. So we've got creator and creation. Within creation subdivides into two fundamental divisions. It divides very cleanly into two things: Kedusha and Klipa. Remember, Klipa and Sitra Achra are synonymous. They both refer to this. They both refer to the phenomenon that we call creation, that conceals its creator. So we've got reality divides into creator and creation. Creation then divides into what's kadosh. That's things of creation in creation that effortlessly allude to their creator, which means when you see them or you interact with them, etc., the creator comes to mind. Like when you look at a Sefer Torah, yeah, like it's the same reason why you get disturbed when someone puts like a telephone on a bencher or on a chumash. Why? Because the chumash reminds you of God. It has kedusha to it. It has a sanctity to it that you're cognizant of. So when somebody puts their cup of coffee on the siddur, it bothers you because the siddur is kadosh. Okay? So that's one section. Now in creation, there's kedusha, and then there's klipa. Klipa is the part of creation that basically says, look at me. I'm an independent self. I'm an independent self with my own agenda, and you might be able to see Hashem in me if you look hard enough, and you might not. It depends. So that's called Klipa and Sitra Achra. It's called Klipa for two reasons, well, for a bunch of reasons, but the two main reasons. Go on. What are the two main reasons it's called Klipa?
Covers.
It covers, and number two, which is maybe more important. Well, no, it's not more important. It's the same.
Causes separation?
No.
That which it covers, it can reveal.
What do you do with the peel of an orange when you want to eat the orange?
Throw it away. Take it away.
You throw it away. It's a means to an end. Klipa has no purpose unto itself. No purpose. It has no intrinsic value. Its value is only in the kedusha that it covers. Okay, kedusha is an end unto itself, and klipa is a means to that end. Now, klipa subdivides. I told you this is going to be bam, bam, bam. So, klipa. But hopefully everyone's familiar. This is that Chazara. It's not Chadasha. It's Chazara. Good. So Klipa now subdivides further into two sections. What are the two? What's the subdivision of Klipa?
That which can be worked with and that which should just
never touched, like
Well,
Schleich Klippas?
yeah. What's the two technical terms you said there? But what are the two names?
Klippas Neugat,
Gimel,
Klippas Neuert.
Gimel,
Yeah,
yeah,
Klippers
Gimel Klippers
Neuger
Timaeus.
and Gimel Klippers Timaeus. So Klippers Neuger is also referred to as the fourth Klipper because it's a Klipper. Don't get this wrong. Klippers Neuger is a Klipper. Yeah, it's possible to elevate that Klipper.
I don't think I've ever asked this question, which is silly of me. What are the Schleich Klippas? Why is it 3? Why isn't it just one Klippas no and one Klippas maybe?
Yeah. So the Tanya does not talk about that whatsoever, and I've seen very little about that. But there are madrigas to Klippas, but in a lot of places they just call them the Klippas Timaeus or the dark Klippa. But we don't. From what I understand, it goes neged. It's Zelemazer to Yisrael, Levi, and Cohen. It's also the Aretz is not. You can get Tuma Mitzad. There's the Arba Yesodus, yeah? Water, fire, air, and earth. And earth is not included. Earth can't be Ra in a sense. I don't really know. I shouldn't speak about this. I'm not clear. Sorry. But it's a good question, but no one really talks about it. Okay, so Klippas subdivides into 2. Klippas Timaeus and Klippas Neuger. Kedusha, like we just said, alludes to the creator. So we describe or analogize Kedusha as what? What's the word that we use to describe Kedusha that helps us understand its properties or its nature?
Translucent?
No, close.
Of God.
No.
Transparent?
Transparent, thank you.
Oh, transparent.
Kedusha is transparent.
Of God.
Yeah, it's of God. I mean, everything's of God. Cleve is also of God. It's all of God. So you made that same joke, by the way, in a different class I gave. I remember listening to the exact same joke with the. So you've got Kedusha is transparent. Klippas Neuger is translucent, which means it alludes to what's behind it, but only alludes to what's behind it. We don't see it clearly like we're transparent. And then we've got Klippas Timaeus, which is opaque. You can't see through it. But by the way, Yisrael, just as an Indian, you've got the madrigas that you could say is things like you've got the peel of an orange, where the orange is of the same color, the peel is of the same color as the fruit, and it sticks to the fruit in a way that you can actually tell what the fruit roughly is going to look like. But then you've got like the shell of a nut, where you have no idea what the nut like. So you have madrigas of Klippa. But that's not. It's kind of irrelevant. It's just like what's the word? It's academic, because Lemaisa Klippas Timaeus, no matter how heavy the Klippa is, it's off limits to us. Okay. What's the definition?
Just to clarify for my own mind, I don't mean to distract the class, but is a grape have a klippa?
The grape is the example of the grape is an example of Klippas Neuger. It's actually translucent. When you hold a grape up to light, it's the only that's the whole story of the spies. There's a big Torah from the Lubavitcher Rebbe on that. Dafka, the grape, symbolizes Klippas Neuger, Dafka, because it's translucent. Yeah, and it's the only fruit that I know of that's like that. By the way, there's another very, very heilige fruit, which is the charuf, the carob, where the carob is not only that it's completely opaque, but the actual fruit is the klippa. And it's the sweetest of all fruits. Go and plug that into Rebbe Shimon and the cave and think about that yourselves, because that's moedic. Anyway.
Is the grape being the one with the translucency, is there any connection between that and it being the holy fruit for like Kiddush and whatnot?
Yes, yeah, for sure. And the fact that it was also one of the three options of the eight Sadas in Gan Eden as well, along with Chita and Ta'ena. Okay. Definition of a Yid. What is the definition of a Yid?
A human with a neshama.
Yeah, that's the definition.
Hey, we just got that from that class. You stole that from Rabbi.
What's the definition of a goy?
Hasidic Geneva. A human.
Yeah, that's it. Done. Finished. It's great. Okay, so now this is great. So you've got a human with a neshama. So now we need to define what's a human and what's a neshama. So what's a human? That's not so Pashut, man. Definition of a human being?
Someone who has a thigh medaber, some I mean, he's the highest on that. He's the medaber.
Yeah, okay. He has intellect. Speech always comes.
Intellect.
The Goyim, by the way, you should know the Goyim have said that one of the big riots for intelligent design is DNA. Yeah, because they say DNA is a language, and they say there's never ever been an example of a language that comes from something that isn't intelligent. No such thing as an example of a language that comes from something that isn't intelligent. So anyway, so the fact that we speak is intelligent. But that, by the way, I don't know if you guys cut this, but I think you do. The chatbot GPT is I mean, that is a seichel. It is intelligent. It is intelligent. It doesn't have a neshama, and it doesn't have a nefesh. It doesn't have a nefesh Bahamis, but it isn't. It has intelligence. It's a chiddush gamel. A chiddush gamel.
Isn't the chiluk that it possesses not just language, but it possesses bechira?
Intelligence and bechira go together, but that's not bechira chofshis. Intelligence means you can make a choice between the $10 bill and the $100 bill, as we keep giving the example.
Well, an animal can do that. Animal can do that also.
Exactly, on a rudimentary level. That's so there is a level of intelligence by an animal. On the level of human, the intelligence isn't. No, I don't know if I can say that. I don't know. There is a level of intelligence to an animal that will allow it to, like, for example, some animals can make quite complex decisions. Like, for example, a lion could decide that chasing a certain animal is not worth the calories. Like, a lion could give up a chase because it computes that the size of this animal compared to how much I'm running is not worth it. That's quite a complicated calculation when you think about it. So bechira and intelligence are for sure bound up with each other. But the definition of a human being is an intelligent, basically an intelligent animal. But it's, I don't know if it's a quantitative difference or a qualitative difference in intelligence. I don't know the answer to that question.
Would be categorized under Chachma, Bina, or Das?
Sorry?
When you say intelligence, like for AI, would it be Chachma, Bina, or Das? Would it be one of those?
It wouldn't have Das, that's for sure. It doesn't have Das. But I mean, I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works. I don't know the way I don't know how it processes things. But I couldn't imagine it's that much different from Chochmah and Bina. I mean, everything is basically like that. But one second, let me just get back to the point. Yeah, the place I'm trying to get to basically is that a human being is an intelligent, let's just call him a mammal, an intelligent mammal yeah, that has a nefesh, a life force that has an agenda to continue to live, that translates into the ego because of our intelligence. So an animal has the same desire to live and to propagate and to solidify its existence, but because of our intelligence, we end up with an ego. The ego is this need to survive, coupled with the ability to think.
Is the ego and the animal soul synonymous?
Not really synonymous. I mean, the ego, you could say, is a part of the animal soul. The animal soul is more than just the ego. The ego could be described as the intelligence of the animal soul being driven by the midas of the animal soul. But an ego it has to be intelligent. There has to be intelligence, because the ego is the desire to live like every animal has, but coupled with intelligence. So you can now, so for example, a hippo, only knows one way of solidifying its existence, which is by having more female hippos in its domain. A human being who has intelligence can now extrapolate and even come to the conclusion that me giving up my life would be the ultimate way of solidifying my existence. That can only be done through intellect. And it's a good cheshbon. If a person has identified with his cause to such a degree that now when somebody says to him, puts a gun to his head and says your life or your body or your cause, now he could potentially say, well, take my body because that will further my cause and that's really who I am. An animal couldn't do such a thing. That's the ultimate level of ego. That's the ultimate, that's the level of the desire to continue to survive that becomes complex through intellect. Like I said, a lion trying to survive just knows one way, just get more lionesses, etc. But a human trying to survive, that can express itself in endless ways, through social media, through owning property, through building hospitals, through murdering and killing, it could be through anything. But that's all on my side. Like, this is what we see, these Rishoyim who came into Eretz Yisrael a couple of weeks ago. That's exactly the inyan. It's kulu. There was no Mesiras Nefesh there bichlal. That was kulu shmiras nefesh mitzad the ego on a mass level. So the human part of the mensch is basically, to say an intelligent animal is not really fair, but it's kind of true. Yeah, it's the desire to continue to survive and to live. That is the human part of the Jew. The godly part of the Jew is basically the chelek elekai mimal. It's the neshama, which is a created being on an external level, but its very inner essence is of creating, of creation. Its very inner essence. And I think the best way of describing it, like I said the other day on my video, is like little specks of light glistening, like the sun glistening on the ocean, and each little dot of light is a Jewish neshama. It doesn't really make sense they're Jewish neshama. Every neshama, well, a neshama isn't Jewish, but when a neshama goes into a goof, that being becomes a Jew. That is the definition of a Jew. So to say a Jewish neshama, it doesn't really make sense. A Jew is a human being with a neshama. Yeah, there's neshamas and there's just there's no like Jewish neshamas and Goyish neshamas. There's just neshamas. They are reflections of God, emanations of God, whatever you want to call them. Emanation is probably the best word to say. So the Jew is the being that has this desire to survive, and this piece of God that's desire is actually the opposite of to survive. It's just to merge back to where it came from, which is the creator. So that's the two opposing drives in the Jew: to be and not to be. That is the question. Okay, so now we've got two styles of Nefesh Bahamis. The Nefesh Bahamis comes in two forms, two types. Yeah, you've got the Jewish one, which is from Klipas Noiga, which has the potential to experience that has the potential to experience another because it is good. It has good mixed in with it. It's a lighter klipa. And then you have the Klipas Timaeus, which is of the Umas Oilam, and not even all of the Umas Oilam, especially in this door, but of the Umas Oilam, which doesn't have any natural ability to appreciate another. It's completely covered. Why, by the way, why does a Jew have to have, by definition, why does a Jew have to have a nefesh from Klipas Noiga as opposed to from Klipas Timaeus?
So it could appreciate God, because
that's not
well,
that is true. That's not
because
think about a little.
Klipas Noiga, Gimel Klipas Timaeus can't. There's no kedusha in it. So therefore it can't. Say your question one more time again.
No, yo, you're saying good. If we had a Gimel Klippos,
Right, exactly.
Nefesh Bahamis, then we would never work with. There's nothing to work with. Hashem,
There's nothing to work with. That's what I was saying.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it looks like you're playing a game right now with
Beautiful.
the headset.
That's exactly the point. Is that we all know that we are elevating the world with our mitzvahs. Yeah. So right now there's a massive aliyah of all this graphite and silicon and metal and chashmal and internet and all this stuff is going right up to Hashem. Yeah, we know that. But there's one thing that is being elevated with, and the most important thing that we're elevating with every 24/7, and that is our nefesh Bahamis. So the Jew, just like you can't elevate a piece of pork. You can't elevate a soul. A Jew can't elevate a soul that is of Klipas Timaeus. So that's the primary reason why we have a nefesh that comes from Klipas Noiga, because just like we're raising up the table to Kedusha because it's of Klipas Noiga, so too we're raising up our personality. We're raising up our human counterpart in every single mitzvah we do. And that's the Ikar Tikkun. That's the Ikar Tikkun. And that's why the Rebbe in Perek Vav, when he talks about raising up Klipas Noiga, he says two things. He talks about he talks about one thing, about pleasure lishma. Pleasure lishma, meaning eating like Rava used to eat wine, used to drink wine and eat nice meat to like open up his mind to learn Torah. Or the other example is to eat wine and meat on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Why didn't he talk about a table or an esrog or parchment for a mezuzah? Why did he just talk about eating on Shabbos Yom Tov and eating to open up your mind to learn Torah? Because that's the Ikar Tikkun of the Yid, is the Nefesh Bahamis. And we just said the Nefesh Bahamis is about survival, yeah? But what's really the Nefesh Bahamis about? What's the panemius of his desire to live?
Be mivar the tzaitzes, like, I mean, to take out the.
of the nefesh of Bahamis, the panemius of his desire to live. What's the panemius of Ratzon? What generates Ratzon?
Oneg.
Oineg, bidyuk. So we're really raising up the nefesh. When we eat a bar of chocolate on Shabbos, and we wouldn't have eaten it in the week, we're only eating it because it's Shabbos. That's a huge tikkun. A huge tikkun for the world, even though you don't have your eyes closed and you're not doing the payers thing and you're not, making all kinds of funny sounds and like falling over and stuff. Yeah, you're just pasha eating a chocolate bar and enjoying it. But because it's Shabbos, what's the raya? Because you don't eat the chocolate bar on the week. That is a huge tikkun, huge tikkun. Huge tikkun, like the Rebbe says, or in the week you're going nuts. Yeah, you want to sit down and learn, but your mind's all over the place. So you go and you take a rugelach and a little schnapps, and you sit down with a packet of potato chips, and you can learn. You did it again. That's also a very heilige thing. If that's really going to help you concentrate and give yourself to the avodah. You with me?
That example you just gave is Shabbos or during the week? I missed it.
In the
potato
week.
chips.
If you're using potato chips because you had a hard day and you're like in that mood where you're just like and it's going to help you to sit down with a packet of potato chips and a sweet drink or whatever. That's going to help you be a mensch and carry on with your avodah. Again, that's you raising up the oineg of your nefesh Bahamis, and that's a moedika thing.
But you're saying the whole reason that it has to be made out of klipas noga is so that we can lift it up. But isn't there also toelis because it now enables us to interface with klipas noga in the world?
Yeah. But the job description of the Jew, we're raising up this world. The job of the Jew is to raise up this world
Within ourselves and outside of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. But the ikka, the dira b'tachtoinim, the tachtoin is the nefesh of Bahamis. That's Elohim HaChayim.
Why is that more tachton than the lulav?
Okay, you answer the question. Why is the nefesh of Bahamis more tachtoin than a lulav? Because the lulav doesn't walk down the street like that.
Because a lulav can't go keneged Ratzon Hashem.
A lulav doesn't think he's God. That's the best way of saying it.
And a behemoth also? A behemoth also, Pashtas?
A behemoth doesn't think he's God. He doesn't think. Behemoth's just a robot. But the Gimel Klippus Tamei, I mean the Ikka Tikkun really is the Goyim. That's what we're really here for. That's why we're called the lights of the nations. We're actually here to raise up the lowest level is the Klippus Tameus. But we can't do that. We can't do that personally.
I wanted to go into that conversation, but I think it's for a different class. How can we call Goyim Shleish Klippus Tameus if the real Pella, the real Avodah is really uplifting them, either through Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach and stuff like that. So that means even if we say there is 7 Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, then they're not Shleish Klippos. They're something else. It can't be Shleish Klippos.
Yeah, because Shleish Klippos could do something that appears to be very nice. It's just doing it for itself. Could build hospitals. It could
even a pig
learning programs.
I mean, even a pig. It doesn't say that a pig shouldn't exist, and it's just a pig. It's Glimel Klippus Tameus for us, but it's not bad.
That's the point. Is that Klippus Tameus is called Ra, but we don't really translate Ra as evil. It just means that it doesn't have the ability to go beyond itself, but it can do very elevated things for itself. It's like you've got people who appreciate Coca-Cola and people who appreciate fine wine. You've got people who appreciate like Vivaldi and people who appreciate like 50 Cent or whatever his name is. You've got there's madrigas within there, but it's all about self. but it can be about self-actualization. You understand? So it doesn't have to be that it's completely evil at all.
I'm just want to say goodbye to everybody. I have to run to work, but I've been enjoying this immensely. Thank you guys for letting me join.
You are at work. This is work.
You know, God willing, soon more work more work of this type than the other.
Amen.
See you guys.
Rabbi, I hear what you're saying about the Shleish Klipos and the Goyim, but you also just said a few moments ago that one of our job at Dira B'Tachtonim, the ultimate level of Dira B'Tachtonim, is uplifting the Goyim, but now it's like I'm hearing a contradiction. That's what I'm hearing.
Why?
Because you're saying that they're so self-oriented, there's nothing to work with there, and we can't work with them, but our job is to work with them. Like, where's the line being drawn?
No, so the selfish part of a person can come intellectually to understand MS on an intellectual level. So the way that the Goyim are raised up is, like we said, like the definition of the Chasidei Umos HaOlam is not, why are they called the Chasidei Umos HaOlam? Why not the Tzadikei Umos HaOlam? Because you can get Goyim who do very righteous things, but unless they're makabel on themselves the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, they're not called Chasidei Umos HaOlam. You could call them the Tzadikei Umos HaOlam. They're good. They're just good, solid people, but they're doing it for rational. It's all to do with the rationality of it makes sense. It's right. It's right to be good. It makes sense to be good, because if everybody was being good, then this world would be like Gan Eden. That's still Klipas Timaeus. That's Klipas Timaeus. If everybody was doing good, then the whole world would be wonderful. So I'm also going to benefit. So it makes sense that I should be good. I'll sacrifice right now for the greater good. So the aliyah of the Goyim comes from appreciating the Sheva B'Mitzvahs Noach, that it's not about what makes sense to me now. That's the next level of the Goy, after it makes sense, to appreciate that there is some kind of reality, some kind of truth that is beyond me. There's not totally on my recognizing it. So it's using the intellect, so to speak, to actually ascend the intellect. But the Ikka aliyah of the Goyim is through the Yidden, is that through their serving us, helping us serve Hashem, just like our avodah goes through the Kohanim in the Beis Hamikdash, their avodah goes through the Yidden that goes through the Kohanim that goes up to Hashem. That's the Ikka that they should be. That it's all about the avodah. It's all about the tzaddik, basically. Everybody's getting their own personal tikkun, but on a kind of global level, it's everything being mechuba to Yisrael. And Yisrael is mechuba to the Kohen Gadol, or to the Tzaddik Ador, whatever you want to call it. And through that it all goes. So it's like a pyramid, kind of a multi-layered pyramid, if you get what I mean.
So previously you said that the Goyim's job is to learn how to be makir another.
Yeah, on their own personal level.
But is the ultimate tikkun that they should also be makir Hashem, that the nefesh, the klipas no too much klipas tamei should be transformed into klipas noga?
Yeah.
Or
I don't. That's a technical question. I don't know the answer to that question. But the ultimate level is that the whole world will know Hashem, down to the rocks. That everyone. That's
meaning that the klipa will disappear. There'll no longer be a klipa.
Yes, it could. Yeah, I don't know if that means they will become klipas noga, or I don't know what that means. But there will.
It'll become kedusha. Everything will become kedusha.
No. There'll be. I don't know if it. I don't know. But maybe you're right. There'll just be like a tzimtzum, whatever. But
That's what the Chiyas Mason means, is that even the Kli becomes, even the Guf becomes Kaddish.
yeah. So that would be when the klipa goes. That would be later. But what I was saying is that the goyim. One sec, I just lost my thought. What were we just saying?
Chiyas Mason.
No, before that.
Before we got off track, you were talking about the difference between the two different types of nefesh bahamas. That's where we were holding in the share.
Yeah, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. I will say that let's keep moving. So we've said that there's the nefesh bahamis that comes from klipas noiga, that has the ability to appreciate another, and the nefesh bahamis from klipas tameus that doesn't have the natural ability to appreciate another. And by using its intellect, it can come to appreciate another. Okay. Now the soul is divided into two basic sections: seichel and midas. Seichel is intellect, and seichel comprises chokhmah, bina, and das. Chokhmah is the faculty that discovers the idea. Bina is the faculty that develops the idea. And das is the faculty that identifies with the idea. Identification with the idea means that you have become enmeshed with the idea. Your sense of self and the idea have now merged with each other. And that's why das gives birth to emotion. Because without the me, there is no emotion. So once I've got some kind of once there's some kind of self involved in the idea, now there can be Ava and Yira. Definition of Ava and Yira: Ava is a force that drives me closer, and Yira is a force that wants distance. I've always said attraction and repulsion, and it always annoyed me, the word repulsion, because Yiras Hashem isn't that you're repulsed by Hashem, Chas v'shalom, but it means that you want distance. So Ava means I want closeness, and Yira means I want distance. In human terms, we could translate Yira as respect. Respect is giving your wife her distance, respecting her autonomy, that she's her own being, and she doesn't have to tell you everything. She doesn't have to answer to you. She's her own being. That's called respect, giving her space. That would be a human moshul for our Yiras Hashem, is giving him his space, so to speak, allowing him to be not in context of us, but as his own independent, as a real being himself. Okay. Torah and mitzvahs. Can anybody summarize the Torah in 2 words?
Divine wisdom.
Yeah, but that you can say that in 1 word, just wisdom. What's the other word?
Will.
Yeah, but Soina v'Chachmasai. But Soina v'Chachmasai. The soul, as we said, has seichel and midas, yeah? It also has behavior. Behavior is thought, speech, and action. Now, someone's ratzon will always be, you can only carry out somebody's ratzon in your behavior. So Torah and mitzvahs, which is Hashem's ratzon, let's leave the chokhmah part out of it for a minute, because the chokhmah is just the kli for the ratzon. But the ikar is the ratzon, is ratzon Hashem. That chokhmah is always a kli for ratzon. that the Ratzon Hashem manifests in this world as mitzvahs. So we could say, like, if you want to give it, I gave this example yesterday, I thought was a good example, is that, let's say my Ratzon is, I hate seeing my kids get hurt, which is true. I do hate seeing my kids get hurt. So in my house, there's 2 rules that are like, they're like the golden rules. Yeah. Number 1, you're not allowed to stand on chairs. And number 2, don't play with doors. Okay. I've seen too many heads get split in my house from standing on chairs. And one of my friends, I cringe every time I hear a door slam in my house because my kids' fingers are so small, and my friend's kid lost a finger in a door. Anyway, so my Ratzon is that a child doesn't get hurt. In my house, that manifests as 2 rules. No standing on chairs, no playing with doors. What's the difference between Torah, between Ratzon Hashem and Olam Hazeh, and Ratzon Shmuel and my house?
Means to an end or an end in itself.
What do you mean?
Your Ratzon is just a means to an end.
No, I meant more.
You don't want them to get hurt.
Well, let's forget about that. Just the relationship between my Ratzon and the mitzvah. The mitzvah is, don't stand on a chair, don't play with the door. That's my mitzvah. And my Ratzon is that a child shouldn't get hurt. The mitzvah is put on tefillin, put on tzitzis, daven, light Shabbos candle, v'chulei. What's the difference between my Ratzon and my mitzvahs and his Ratzon and his mitzvahs? Is that my Ratzon, see, the door and the chair and the child exist independent of my Ratzon. And I'm imposing my Ratzon on those elements. Hashem's Ratzon causes those elements to exist. That's called Histakel B'Oraisa B'Ore Alma. The reason why, one of the reasons why you have an arm is because of the mitzvah of tefillin. One of the reasons why there's such a thing as a cow is because of the mitzvah of tefillin. One of the reasons why there's such a thing as grass, as in like green grass on the fields, is because there's a mitzvah of tefillin. That causes, so, do you hear what I'm saying? It's not like, by me, it's just, well, there's a chair and there's my kid and there's a door, and I don't like people to get hurt, so I make up these mitzvahs. Don't stand on chairs, don't play with doors. By Hashem, it's the mitzvah that causes so why is there a yid? Because there's a mitzvah tefillin. That's one of the reasons why there's a yid, because the mitzvah tefillin needs to take place. So when a yid puts on tefillin, like we've said over and over, it's not a yid putting on tefillin, it's the mitzvah of tefillin being manifest in Olam Hazeh. What do you need for that mitzvah to take place? Well, you need it to be daytime. You need the actual physical stuff of the tefillin. You need the Jew with an arm and energy, etc. You stip all of those things together in the right measurements as detailed in Shulchan Aruch, and you have a mitzvah. That is the revelation of the Ratzon Hashem in this world. It's like all of those elements dissolve into just an opening for the Ribbono Shel Olam to flow through into his world. They all achieve their tachlis, and every mitzvah that we do, Olam Hazeh achieves all of its tachlis. So that happens through our thought, speech, and action. Every mitzvah is talui on thought, speech, and action. and most of them are involved in action, which is raising up the lowest levels. Okay, doing good. We're doing good.
But how does that fit with what you said previously, that everything was created for man, for human, for us, for the Jew, right? I've heard you say that.
Everything
I
was
believe.
well, everything was created for the Jew
For us,
to turn into mitzvah.
correct. But then I also just heard you say that the Jew was created for the mitzvah.
Well, the Jew is the chalik of the mitzvah. Say it's created for the Yidden. Rashi says the first Rashi in the Chumash is Bishvil Torah, Bishvil Yisrael. It's all the same thing. It's all part of. It was created for Yisrael. It was created for Torah. It was created for the Shem mitzvah. But mitzvahs take place through Yisrael and all the other chalakim. It's kind of semantics in a sense. But by the way, this is one of the chidushim. Gavro, you'll appreciate this. Is why we say, what does the Mishnah say? That the Arba Midas going to the base of Medrash, there's the one who goes to the base, the one who goes and does. Yeah? The one who goes and does is called a chassid. Yeah? That's the whole inyan of the hachana in Hasidus being so choshev to the mitzvah. Because the chassid is all about being ma'ale the klipa to Hashem. That's why Rabbi Shimon ate the chruv. Yeah, the whole inyan of the chassid is being ma'ale the klipa. So that's why hachana has taken such a pedestal in Hasidus, because the hachana for the mitzvah by definition is klipa. It's the means to the end. It's not the mitzvah itself. So that became such a choshev zach by the chassid, because the definition of the chassid, that's, by the way, why he burns his nails. Why did it give that example? Because nail is klipa, and burning is a korban, is hakrava. So it's being the mala, the klipa, it's not just like with what we've always said, it is that, be'ikah, but there's also the inyan of bringing up the klipa, which is done through aish, which is done through turning the chumriousness of this world into Ashen that goes up to Hashem. By the way, Ashen is Olam Shana Nefesh. That's this world. So there's two things. Why is it called Ashen? Because the fire is Hashem, Eish Ochlahi. So the Ashen is what comes off of the fire. So the Ashen can either blind you from the fire, or it can be the means you use to take you back to the fire. That's Olam Shana Nefesh. That was a big idea. Anyway, now to plug it now into the three personalities that we have. Okay, and we can do this now quite easily. The three personality types in the Torah, well, really there's two personality types. There's the Rasha and the Tzaddik. But we break it down into another one, which is called the Benoni. So now we have Rasha, Benoni, and Tzaddik. And then in Rasha, we have two types, and in Tzaddik, we have two types. You also see in Perek 15, we have two types of Benonim as well, in a sense. The Rasha is the person who his sense of independent self, his egoic selfhood, is so strong that even occasionally it asserts itself over God. It's so strong that even occasionally it thinks it's more choshev than God. And that could be very occasionally. Just that it can. So it comes out that a Rasha doesn't even have to do an Aveira, just that he could do an Aveira if the opportunity arose. The tzaddik is internally aligned with God to such a degree that there is no concept of Aveira by him. It's like the idea of jumping out of a window of a building. Just wouldn't enter your mind. It's not an option. It's just that doesn't exist. The Benoni is the being that can appreciate that he has his own strong sense of self, like all of us, but he's made a decision at some point which says, I'm not going to compromise. I'm not compromising my behavior. Even though I feel like I'm God at some points, I will not act it out. And that's a decision that the Benoni has made. And it's like lots of times we make a decision. I have a friend, when we were like 13 years old, 12 years old, he just decided that he wasn't going to eat any sweets and chocolates anymore. And that was it. Finished. Never, that we can do. We can make a decision, and that decision can become more real to us than we are to ourselves. We can make a commitment. It's really the Indian of what Covey speaks about, keeping promises. What's the very first word of Tanya after Tanya? Tanya. Mashbiin oisoti tzadik valti rasha. They make you take a vow. Like in my house, like they know, my kids know that if I make a neder, yeah, then that's it. And I will threaten my kids. See, I don't have to threaten with something. I'll threaten them with that I'll make a neder about something. And that's so real to them that they won't. Like if I say, I've said it many times, like I make a neder that I'm not going to buy you this, like for the next week, like, until next, I'll say that, yeah, my kids now, I make a neder in front of them, or maybe not with Loshna neder, sometimes with Loshna neder, but like when somebody makes a neder, yeah, like we don't make nedarim because we know that you go, so, but when you make that's what the Indian of the Benoni is. He made a neder. He will not do an Aveira. Yes, I'm plutzing to do an Aveira. I'm desperate to do that Aveira, but I'm not going to do it. That's the Benoni. And that is what we can all aspire to become. We can all aspire to that, and we can all be that. We can all be that for our entire lives as well. That you've made a conscious decision that you're not going to do any Aveiras. Now there's Madregas, because there's Sveikas, and there's Aveiras Kalas, and there's Chumras, and there's all kinds of, it gets all very multifaceted and interesting. But that's the Indian of the Benoni. Like, there's lots of examples. So that's really taken us back to where we're holding at right now, which is in the Benoni. So questions?
Can you just recap what there's a tzaddik and a tzaddik gomer is? Tzaddik she'eino gomer, tzaddik gomer.
The difference in that, well, you can say it like this: by the tzaddik she'eino gomer, or the tzaddik ra'aloi, we say that the ra is batul ukafuf l'toiv. Yeah. So a bittul needs to take place as a ratio. So what's it buttled to? You with me? You're saying that the ra in the tzaddik is so minuscule that it is buttled to the toiv. What's that? That's referring to the bittul of the midas to the oineg. The oineg in the nefesh bahamis. This is very technical, by the way. So if you're holding with it, good. This is a very technical point. The oineg, the midas of the nefesh bahamis in the tzaddik she'eino gomer are so good that they silence, so to speak, the pleasure in the tzaddik she'eino gomer that has not been completely stripped of all sense of self. You get that?
Not really. That's okay. I don't think it's okay for us. I'm just.
No, but that is the difference in the sun. That is the difference in the Salik Gam and Shalat Enegam. That the very essence of his Nefesh Bahamis is Oineg, yeah? That you know. But the Oineg still has a Shemetz of Yesh. He still has a tipa of personal pleasure. Now, if his emotions are really, really holy, he will never hear of that. He'll never know of it. He won't notice it. And that's why there can be different levels of bittul, because the emotions can be really holy, or the emotions can be really, really holy. And it also depends on how much yesh there is left on the oineg of the essence of his soul. That's the inyan of the bittul. How much yesh is there on the oineg of the nefesh Bahamis, and how much toiv is there in the midas of the nefesh Bahamis? So the Tzadik She'eino Gamor is quite a complex entity to understand, whereas the Tzadik Gamor is very simple. The Tzadik Gamor means that obviously the midas are perfectly good, but the actual oineg of his nefesh Bahamis has also become kulu toiv, and therefore it's basically like he has two nefashos elokis. It's a very technical point. I understand that. I don't know. I mean, I hope I explained it, but it takes some hasmada to get that clear. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. You said that the Iker Tikkun of the Yid is to elevate the Nefesh of the Hema. My question is, where does Oneg come into that equation or into that sentence? Is Oneg the means by which it's not the end? So where does Oneg fit into that process?
That's a really good question. The Oneg of the Nefesh Bahamis is its MO.
Is it
MO? It's always the tachlis of everything that the Nefesh Bahamis does is its pleasure. The reason why it does anything will eventually be so it gets pleasure, which is the shurish of its desire to live. Okay, but let's just forget about desire to live. It's pleasure.
So how does the tikkun fit in?
So if all behavior is generated from the Nefesh Bahamis' oineg, now really the only way of really elevating the Nefesh Bahamis is through its oineg. That's it. That is the essence of the Nefesh Bahamis. Everything else is just hacking at the leaves, so to speak. That's why the Rebbe got straight into the crux of it and said, eating the Shem Shemaim, eating so that you can learn good, or eating the covered Shabbos, that's picking up the Nefesh Bahamis. So whenever we're engaged in any kind of oineg, lishma, not again, just I've said it, countless, endless times. That doesn't mean you're like thinking about God and rolling your eyes and tasting the elokus in the food. It just means that you're using pleasure. You're using your pleasure as a means to mitzvah's ends. That's a good way of saying it. Your pleasure is becoming a means to an end, the end being a mitzvah. Because the Nefesh Bahamis' end is always pleasure. So when you're using that pleasure as a means to the end being a mitzvah, Nefesh Bahamis is going right up to Shemaim. And Hashem is very happy. Hashem's coming down to Haaretz, Nefesh Bahamis is going up to Shemaim, everyone's in bed with each other, and it's Givoldik.
Rabbi, what you just said, is this what I'm about to say the same thing? Because we're talking about attacking this Nefesh Bahamis. What I also have heard you say is that we just need to increase more of the other way, increase more godly soul, put more godly, and that will just dissipate the animal soul at all. It will just kind of put more light into the godly, and the animal will go away. So is that one and the same?
I mean,
because you're saying to eat, you're eating, in a kedusha way. Well, that's oneg, but I've also heard you say,
well, we could think of it like this. Like that's a really good question again. That let's say the guy comes back from work. He's all, like we're all like that, and we just want the kids to shut up, and we just want to, But that doesn't happen. But you come home from work and you want to eat a packet of potato chips and drink a can of Coke, yeah, and that's gonna give to you enough that will allow you to be a mensch in your house, yeah, the dugma. Mm-hmm. But if you work on yourself enough and and you sleep on the floor, yeah, then eventually you're not going to need those potato chips. Like I don't think Rav Meyer Zilberberg comes home and has to pull out the potato chips and the Pepsi, He's been male the oineg he's been male the oineg, meaning that he's kind of changed the oineg of the nefesh Bahamis from that physical oineg into a ruchnius oineg. And his nefesh Bahamis now is misaneg on the avoider of, say, tefillah, for example. His nefesh Bahamis his nefesh Bahamis is getting tremendous oineg through tefillah. So this is the inyan of, I've said so many times that Yiddishkeit isn't about ruchnius, yeah? Yiddishkeit is about God. But there is the avoider of making your nefesh Bahamis more ruchni. So it's a concession. When I keep talking about going home and drinking Coke and eating potato chips, yeah, that's a concession to the matzah that we're in.
Okay, good.
But if we can work hard and really work hard and train our nefesh, train like you train a dog, you train our nefesh to be misaneg on tefillah, to be misaneg on limud Torah, to be misaneg on chesed, to the point where it doesn't even need Coke anymore, where it doesn't need potato chips. Same inyan. On an elevated, on a more, so that's the avoider, the human avoider is the avoider of making more ruchni the nefesh Bahamis, and that's actually what Rav Manis says over and over. He says this is a big trip, that the avoider of chinuch. Listen to this for a big one. The avoider of chinuch is raising your child's pleasure, raising his oineg from gashmias to ruchnias. That is what chinuch, that's how he defined, that's how I've heard him say many times, how he defines chinuch. Being male their oineg from the things of this world, primarily food, to zmiras, to limud Torah, to being good, etc. That's what chinuch is. And we're here to be machanech the nefesh Bahamis. That's mechanech the nefesh Bahamis is called training. That's what we use the vernacular word as to train an animal. In Hebrew, it says to be mechanech. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be mechanech the nefesh Bahamis. So right now, in the matzah that we're in, we need to eat the potato chips and drink the Pepsi. But eventually, please God, we won't need that anymore, because we've actually trained the nefesh Bahamis, and we're still elevating him because he's involved in the tefillah. That's what they said. In Chabad they say this, that if you've got a piece of wood that hasn't been dried out sufficiently, yeah, it's still like chai. You know what I'm talking about? It's like got a lot of life in it, yeah. You put it in the fire, or what's the difference between taking that piece of wood and sticking it in the fire, or taking a really dried out dead piece of wood and putting it in the fire? What's the difference? Yeah. It's all, so that's the idea of davening with Hislavus, is a guy with an active nefesh Bahamis who gets he's brought the Nefesh Bahamis into it, but a person who's killed the Nefesh Bahamis, he'll stand there dead still. Dead still. There won't be any tss, pss, tss, pss. There won't be any noise going on.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. By the way, most people like Coke rather than Pepsi. Just
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, probably Coke.
throw that in there.
That sounds like something
Yeah.
else as well. Pepsi Cola.